All right, let's talk about the ABC industry study. You're here because you want to nail part one, right? Well, let's dive straight in and figure out exactly how to lock in those top marks. Okay, so this whole explainer is basically your strategic launch pad for that big 5-mark question. You know the one, all about the ethical issues that ABC deals with in its multimedia. And look, our goal here isn't just to scrape by. We are aiming for that top-tier, extensive rating, nothing less. All right, first things first, let's look at the rubric. And I mean, really look at it. The jump from a sound mark to an extensive one is, well, it's massive. For a sound response, you're just kind of sketching in general terms, maybe using a couple of sources. But for those full 5 marks, you need a comprehensive understanding. And that means backing it up with an extensive variety of sources, quotes, and statistics. It's a whole different ballgame. It is all about the depth and the quality of your proof.
So here's our game plan. We're going to break this down. First, the foundation. Then we'll build up our evidence. And finally, we'll nail the execution. And we'll wrap it all up with a checklist so you know you've hit every single point.
All right, let's get into level 1, the foundation. And seriously, everything we're about to talk about, your whole analysis, it all hinges on getting your head around one absolutely fundamental difference. A difference between the ABC and pretty much any other media company out there. And here it is. This is the core concept. Think about a commercial station, right? They're driven by profit. They answer to shareholders. Simple. But the ABC, it's a completely different beast. As a public broadcaster, it's driven by its charter. And who is it accountable to? It's accountable to the public, to you. So here's the absolute kicker. This isn't just some nice idea they have hanging on the wall, an ethical guideline. No. It is a legal requirement. That legal mandate is the bedrock for every single ethical call the ABC has to make. And I can't stress this enough. If you miss this point in your response, your whole argument is basically built on quicksand.
Okay, so now that we have the foundation down, let's climb up to level 2. This is where we start building on that foundation. And it's where we find the specific proof. The stuff that marketers are literally looking for when they're deciding to give out those top marks.
So if you really want to investigate this industry properly, you've got to go straight to the source. You have to use their own rulebook. For the ABC, that's the code of practice. Think of it like this. This is the document that takes that big, important legal charter and turns it into actual, practical, day-to-day rules for their journalists and producers. And listen, don't just wave your hand and say they follow the code of practice. That's not good enough. Get specific. You need to focus your research and actually cite these 2 key sections. Section 2.1 on accuracy, that's their absolute core principle, and Section 7.1 on harm and offense, which is all about how they deal with sensitive stuff. When you cite these, it shows the marker that you've gone past the general ideas and you're talking about specific, real-world compliance. But wait a second, how does all this apply to the modern world? I mean, the question is specifically about multimedia products, right? We're not talking about old-school radio broadcasts here. This demands fresh, contemporary examples from the digital age we live in. And this right here is where things get really fascinating. Just think for a second about the ethical minefields the ABC has to navigate today. How do they handle user-generated content? A video someone shot on their phone at a protest. How do they verify that before they put it on the news? Or what about the crazy rise of AI deepfakes? How do we make sure what they're showing you is actually real? This is exactly the kind of concrete example you should be digging into. Go and research programs like ABC News Verify. Seriously, look it up. Find out what their actual process is for fact-checking this kind of digital content. Do that, and you'll have these incredibly powerful, specific examples of the code of practice in action in today's world. Okay, on to level 3, execution. This is the final step. This is where all that great research you've done comes together. It's where you take all that knowledge and apply it directly to your writing to lock in those extensive marks. Let me be absolutely crystal clear about this. Evidence is non-negotiable. Just explaining the issues, no matter how well you do it, is not going to be enough for full marks. The rubric couldn't be more explicit about what markers are looking for. So if you want to hit that top band, here's the recipe. Every single significant point you make about an ethical issue has to be supported. That means you need to pull info from a wide range of sources. You need to use direct quotes to back up what you're saying. You need to find relevant statistics to use as hard evidence. And of course, you have to nail the in-text citations for absolutely everything. Okay, now lean in for this one, because this is a classic little trap that people fall into. Your task notification, and you should check it, under APA referencing requirements, it specifically says that all your written stuff has to use APA 7th edition.
But, and this is a big but, the rubric for Part 6 for the bibliography actually mentions Harvard style. Yep, that's a direct contradiction. This is one of those critical details you just can't afford to ignore. You absolutely have to confirm which style to use with your faculty leader. Don't lose easy marks over a silly technicality like this.
Okay, let's bring it all home. Here's a quick final checklist, your path to getting those 5 marks. So here it is, your action plan. 1. Anchor everything in the ABC Charter. 2. Cite specific clauses from the Code of Practice. Remember, 2.1 and 7.1. 3. Use modern, relevant examples. We're talking AI, user-generated content, deepfakes. 4. Back up every single key point with quotes and statistics. And 5. Clarify and use the correct referencing style. You follow this checklist, and your response goes from being just a simple summary to a really powerful evidence-based analysis. So, as you start to pull all your research together and begin writing, this is the one question you need to keep asking yourself. Is my evidence strong enough for a 5? Is every single claim I'm making backed up with solid, specific proof? If the answer is yes, then you know you're on the right track for those top marks.